Well, hello there, and welcome to the House of Hammer. My sincere apologies that you had to fight your way through that gaggle of paparazzo. It seems this episode's subject matter has stirred them up somewhat. Or it could just be the fervour kicked up by Ben and Kev modelling the new range of House of Hammer merch that's available. Oh yes, my friends, we are not too grand to crowbar in a shameless plug from time to time. And don't forget, Christmas is just around the corner. But enough of that. Until later, let's talk about some movies, shall we? We haven't done too badly of late, have we? We had a jolly jape with The Saint Return, a barnstorming Sid James performance in The Flanagan Boy, and our first proper foray into science fiction with Four-Sided Triangle. So where does that take us now? Well, since you asked so nicely, this takes us on to 1953's Blood Orange. Hammer's Blood Orange, aka Three Stops to Murder, follows the adventures of Tom Conway, the actor, playing Tom Conway, the private detective. Yeah, I know, that doesn't really make any sense, does it? But wait for the round table to hear more about this lunacy. Tom is employed by Mr. Mercedes, played by the excellent Eric Pullman, to basically keep an eye on his affairs and investigate when anything goes wrong. Well, before you can say fistfight balcony, something does go wrong, and Mr. Mercedes has a load of his jewellery half-inched by some unscrupulous tea leaf.
Mr. Conway?
Yes, how do you do?
Inspector, this is Mr. Conway. He works for Mr. Mercedes.
Hello, Mercedes.
Oh, didn't I tell you? All the stolen jewelry belonged to Mr. Mercedes.
Dear Helen, always talking of your favorite jeweler.
How nice to see you. Inspector MacLeod, Mr. Mercedes.
My pleasure, Inspector. Well, I must be getting along now. Nice to see you all looking so well.
Excuse me, sir. I would just like to ask
Inspector, I have to be at my tailor's at 1:15. Conway here can answer all your questions for me. Happy hunting.
Very busy man, Mr. Mercedes. Yes, he must be. According to this, there's £50,000 worth missing. Or in your language, $140,000.
Soup and peat job, huh? Did you find any prints?
From here on, Tom seems to be playing a bit of a cat and mouse with various shady lads and lasses, trying to discover who's nicked the gear, and who is naughtily going around and turning people into brown bread.
I've given all the details to your boys in Kensington. Place is knee-deep in ectoplasm. I guess that's why she chose the bathroom. Want a cigarette?
No, thanks. I've given them up. I use these things instead.
You better watch your waistline.
You know, after you phoned, I rang the yard. They're sending over the file on merchant robbery. It was a ladder job in Sussex. But we'll wait for the details.
Proud of your filing system, aren't you?
Well, of course, it isn't as up-to-date as your affair in Washington. I believe they feed the clues in one end and it prints the name of the criminal the other.
They've improved it. Right now, they deliver them to you wrapped as a gift.
What are you doing since you left the FBI?
Playing around. Worked for one of the big insurance outfits. Now I'm with Mercedes.
Nice company you keep.
Ah, you've got to eat. And I get expenses. Mostly rye and gasoline. Besides, things got a little, complicated for me in L.A. You know, anything for the quiet life.
Along the way, we also pick up two of our favourite returning stars. The luminous Naomi Chance is with us once again.
I may be making rather a fuss about this, but I thought you should know. Just before the accident this afternoon, somebody buzzed Chelsea on the intercom.
Who?
I don't know. Chelsea was hanging up as I came into the model's room, and she went out almost immediately.
That could explain why she waltzed out onto the balcony, just at the time when everybody was busy watching the show. Have you told the police?
I thought it would be easier to talk to you.
Oh.
What do your friends call you?
In the days when I had any, they called me Tom.
And for the first time since PC-49, Hammer stalwart Michael Ripper.
Looking for me, chum?
I'll have a word with you, Gav.
They always told me the English waited until they were spoken to. I hate to think what this is costing you in gasoline.
It's about Madame Fernand. I work for Madame Fernand. I worked for Madame Fernand for 20 years.
Okay, so you work for Madame Fernand.
Oh, I know it ain't strictly legal, but the cops ain't worried. It's not like pinching lead off church roofs. That's dirty work. Yeah, very dirty work. But I'm one who's always stuck to my own business. And the way I look at it, doing my robbing.
All right, so you're clean. I don't know what's eating you, chum. but-
You're worrying Madame Fernand, going around asking questions, stirring up trouble where there ain't no need. Well, lay off, that's all.
One of the main plot points of Blood Orange is, as I mentioned, some missing jewellery, but more specifically, missing rubies. It suddenly struck me I know nothing about rubies. I've never bought one. I don't even know if I've seen one in the flesh. So, I did a little investigating of my own. We all know what a ruby is, right? It's a stone, and it's red. That's pretty obvious to everyone. What I didn't know is that they're found in mines from a vast array of disparate places, such as Thailand and Australia, Brazil, Japan, and even, wait till you hear this, Scotland. But let's get back to the basics. A ruby is a gemstone. That's good, right? It's one of the most popular too, because of its high durability. That's also good. Damn, rubies are knocking it out of the park so far. The word ruby comes from rubere, which is Latin for red, and its colour is due to its containing chromium. I'm loving this. Why can't all our segments be this easy? Like with many other gems, the quality of a ruby is determined by its colour, cut clarity, and its carat weight. So, the brighter the red, the clearer the stone, and its heft all add up to how valuable an individual ruby actually is. It's so simple. May as well throw in a couple of facts that pertain to today's film, and to why they're so valued, especially by sticky-fingered thieves. On December the 13th in 2011, Elizabeth Taylor's complete jewellery collection was auctioned by Christie's. Several ruby set pieces were included in the sale, notably a ring set with an 8.24 carat gem that broke the price per carat record for rubies at over $4.2 million. And there was a necklace that sold for just over $3.7 million. The Sunrise Ruby is the world's most expensive ruby, most expensive coloured gemstone, and most expensive gemstone other than a diamond. In May 2015, it sold at auction in Switzerland to an anonymous buyer for $30 million. So there you have it. Not exactly a gold mine of knowledge for this particular gemstone, but I think we all learned something here today. Well, there you have it. It's a stone, and it's red. That was worth all our time, wasn't it? What is more worth your time, because let's face it, he's had plenty of it, is spending a few relaxing minutes in the company of our very own Mercurial Methuselah, with his thoughts on Tom Conway's coat of choice, the Macintosh, is our very own Kev Moore.
If you're lucky enough to be able to watch a copy of Blood Orange, make a quick mental note of Tom Conway's wardrobe. There's barely a scene in the film where he's not without his trench coat, to the point where you begin to wonder whether he's some kind of secret flasher on the side. This got us thinking about the trench coat, and how many times it's already appeared in other Hammer films. Most notably, Dick Barton, who seems to have the world's only glow-in-the-dark overcoat that severely hampers his ninja stealth skills. We tend to incorrectly call these Macs, in the same way that a vacuum cleaner is commonly called a hoover, which has also become a verb along the way. But there is still only the one real deal. The British Army trench coat has been a staple of the Macintosh line, under one name or another, since the time of the First World War. I say one name or another because since 1824, it's been a very confused timeline indeed, and it involves many different company names over the years that's only just starting to become a bit clearer. Anyway, back to the war. The overcoat's reputation for being 100% waterproof with loads of pocket space that made it essential for dispatch riders, especially at first, remains key selling points to this day. And while there's been a few tweaks to carry mobile phones rather than maps and documents, the coat still appears the same well over a century later. The company's been called on to produce sturdy waterproof wares for virtually any sector you care to think of. So it's quite something when you dig into the story of Charles Mackintosh and find out that once he'd developed his technique of rubberized fabric, he couldn't even get anyone to produce it for him. This was simply down to the fact that the coat would quite literally stink the place out. Luckily, Mackintosh knew he was onto something, and he convinced the Burley brothers of Manchester to build the Charles Mackintosh India Rubber Company factory next to their mill in order to produce his vulcanized cotton. He'd also team up with Thomas Hancock, who'd found a way of stopping you smelling like a chemical plant. Slowly but surely, these unbelievably waterproof jackets began to propagate beyond Manchester and Glasgow, and were often referred to as Mackintosh rather than Mackintosh jackets. Thus was born the Mackintosh, a waterproof, knee-length jacket that was fastened with buttons. The fate of the Mac was sealed, pretty much the same way that every seam is, and the company that once produced the overcoats for peelers and peep shows is now more often seen in the society pages due to its classic status and eye-watering price tags.
I can just see Kev now, huddled against the rain, enveloped by his Mac. Oh, and several women running away. I really must stop using this telescope. Anyway, enough of that. A little question for you all now. Have you ever thought about how many films have the word orange in their title? Yeah, all right. I don't want a conversation about it. It was just an English pleasantry. Well, even if you haven't, Ben has, and he's here with some very surprising results.
When I mooted the idea of a little segment on movies with the word orange in the title, I stressed to my House of Hammer co-hosts that I may need to branch out into other movies whose titles contain other fruits/colours, as there may not be enough orange movies to fill an entire segment. Oh Ben, you poor naive fool. As it turns out, there are loads of them, and even several with the exact title Blood Orange. Putting aside over a dozen short films titled Blood Orange, the feature-length 2016 Blood Orange is a thriller starring Iggy Pop as an ageing rocker. There's a 2011 Iranian drama of the same name, and 1997's The Blood Oranges is an erotic drama starring a nudie Charles Dance. Bloody Oranges is a 2021 French comedy where, and I'm quoting here, a deeply in-debt retired couple tries to win a rock dance competition, a minister is suspected of tax fraud, and a teenager makes the acquaintance of a pervert. Oh, French lads, I'm laughing already. But let's drop the blood and keep the orange, as the saying goes, and see where that gets us in terms of film titles. Well, firstly, there's a handful of films just titled Orange, a Japanese romantic comedy drama from 2015, an Indian romantic comedy drama from 2010. There's also an American romantic comedy drama from 2011 called The Oranges. So clearly, when you've got a romantic comedy drama to title, there's clearly only one citrus fruit/colour between yellow and red on the spectrum of visible light to go for. Now let's get to the meat of the orange and reel out a few films that most listeners might be more familiar with. Stanley Kubrick's notorious adaptation of Anthony Burgess's novel A Clockwork Orange employs disturbing violent images to comment on psychiatry, juvenile delinquency, youth gangs and other social, political and economic subjects in a dystopian near-future Britain. As an aside, there are several explanations given for the novel and resultant movie's title, my favourite being that Burgess had overheard the phrase "as queer as a clockwork orange" in a London pub in 1945 and assumed it was a Cockney expression. 2002's Orange County is a comedy starring Jack Black and Colin Hanks. It also stars the mum from Home Alone and the dad from Harry and the Hendersons. Yes, I know those actors have names, but they need to accept that that's how they'll be forever remembered. The movie is set in affluent Orange County, California, hence the title. However, none of it was shot there. Bummer. Soldier of Orange is a Belgian-Dutch movie from 1977, which depicts World War II through the eyes of several Dutch students who joined the resistance movement against the German occupation of the Netherlands. It was directed by Paul Verhoeven, who would of course go on to direct such classics as RoboCop, Total Recall, Starship Troopers, and RoboCop Deleted Scenes. Christmas Oranges is a 2012 American movie based on the beloved classic holiday tale. So beloved and classic that I'd never heard of it. And other than references to it, my half-arsed research couldn't turn up a copy of the story. I did, however, note that the tradition of leaving an orange in a Christmas stocking can be traced back to the Great Depression, when no one could afford a Game Boy or a skateboard, so instead you got an orange to ward off the scurvy. Also, there's the legend of St. Nicholas, who reputedly gave 3 gold balls to a poor man whose daughters couldn't marry because he couldn't afford the dowries. Apparently, St. Nicholas tossed the gold down the man's chimney, where it ended up in the daughters' stockings, which were drying by the fire. That's a hell of a trick shot, Santa. Anyway, later in history, people began to honour the story and the saint by gifting oranges instead of spheres of gold. As far as I can tell, no one lobs balls of any sort down the chimney in Christmas Oranges. It's a Christian film set in an orphanage. I've not watched it, obviously. My dedication doesn't stretch that far. Oranges and Sunshine is a British-Australian movie from 2010, based on a true story. Set in 1980s Nottingham, social worker Margaret Humphreys holds the British government accountable for child migration schemes and reunites the children involved, now adults living mostly in Australia with their parents in Britain. Now, Smokey has seen this one and he let me know what he thought. I took comprehensive notes of the conversation and can report that it is good but depressing. Other orangey film titles include Tiger Orange, Orange Confucius, don't look that one up at work, Smile Orange, Orange Sunshine, Orange People, Spy of Orange, Blue Oranges, The Burnt Orange Heresy, Wild Oranges, Orange Suit, Orange Love, Orange Girl, Sugar Orange. Phew, aren't you glad this segment's almost over? But before it is, let me leave you with 5 fun facts about oranges. The term fun is subjective. Number 1, oranges are the largest citrus fruit in the world. 2, there are over 600 varieties of orange. 3, Brazil is the world leader in orange production, producing about half of the world's orange juice and approximately 80% of the world's orange concentrate. 4, this is my favourite orange fact, with a high resistance to disease, more oranges are killed by lightning than by plant diseases. And finally, number 5, the answer to that age-old question of which came first, the fruit or the colour. Orange, the fruit, is older than orange, the colour. Historians believe the fruits, known as narang, travelled from East Asia to Spain, long before the word was used to describe the colour in Europe. In Spain, narang became naranja, and when they'd reached France, they became pomme d'orange. So there you go.
Thank you, Ben. I'm gonna stick my neck out and say good but depressing is my best film review yet. Watch out, commode. I'm coming for you. It's time to retire to the round table now, to hear our full, reasoned and fleshed out thoughts on Blood Orange, and presiding is your usual 3 musketeers of myself, Kev Moore, and Ben Taylorson.
So, gentlemen, Blood Orange. Now, my opening question, it relates to the title of the film. Could you think of a more threatening fruit to name a film after than Blood Orange? Kevin?
The violent pineapple.
Yeah, but you're adding a layer of drama to an ordinary fruit there. But no, it's...
I've got one.
Huh?
A ninja star fruit.
Oh.
I think, is that a real fruit, though?
Well, you have a star fruit, and then you have a ninja star. Just add them together.
Well, so I think the answer is no. There isn't a more threatening fruit than a blood orange.
What about a prickly pear?
Oh, well, see now the competition's ended. Now you're steaming with a relatively decent answer.
I didn't realise you were a competition.
I win.
Everything's a competition. this is a bit of an oddity, this one, isn't it? It's in some ways I feel like we've seen it all before. In other ways, I'm not sure we have seen anything quite like this one. Let's start with Tom Conway, who plays, and it's a stretch for him, Tom Conway. And I'm going to pose a question, and it's a bit of a leading question, but feel free to kick back and give your own take on it. I think he's quite an unlikable protagonist. I think he lacks charm. I think where there should be charisma, there's arrogance. I think he lacks likability, for want of a better word. I'll throw over to you first, Smokey. What do you think of Tom Conway as Tom Conway, a private detective?
Tom Conway as Tom Conway. All the words you used. He's not charismatic. He's rather unlikable. The fact that he gets with Naomi Chance within 5 seconds of meeting her really gets my goat, because how dare he? And he's
Plus
just...
he cops a feel as well.
Oh.
His hand goes inside her coat, and it's
deeply
not
unpleasant.
Nope.
Yeah.
No, he is. And let's not beat around the bush here. He's a misogynist, bit of a perv. And just not a nice guy. And you discover through the plot is that he's been unceremoniously kicked out of the FBI, and he's just sort of kicking his heels in England because he's got nothing better to do and he just needs to make money working for unscrupulous people. No, he's an absolute ass.
Kev, what do you think?
Well,
not that you're being led into one particular direction.
No, not at all. I feel like he's a lovely guy. No, I really don't. Now, to me, his character seems so disengaged with what's going on around him. There's a lot of times. I mean, there's actually a scene when he's at a fashion show and he's actually falling asleep in his chair. Yeah. And I'm sure that is actually genuine, because at this time he's really going off the rails. This is one of the first times he comes over to Britain since his wife started suing him for divorce in June of 1953.
This is in his personal life, isn't
it?
Yeah. As an actor.
And so, of course, when he comes over here to start filming this in September 53, he's already starting to hit the bottle big time. And I wonder if this is why his character is called Tom Conway, because he just didn't have the capacity to actually maintain a character.
No, he wouldn't have been able to react if they'd called him by a different character
Exactly,
name.
Yeah.
He was so out of it. Yeah, but I mean, that's it. I mean, I love your hypothesis, because I did do a little bit of digging to see if anyone had proffered any reason as to why his character's name was exactly... I mean, not just, like in some 70s British sitcoms, if there was a comedian in the role, they would just give him the same first name.
Yeah.
Because it was, it had a label
like
to
Sid,
it,
in Bless His House.
There's loads of them, but with this, there was no reason given anywhere that I could see about why they did this. So I think your summarization there is probably spot on.
In terms of the plot, again, I'm going to throw out a bit of a loaded question, but it's also an open question. The plot is paradoxically both thin and hilariously overcomplicated. Is it just me thinking that, or do you think that because you think you've got this murder mystery plot, and then about 2/3 of the way through the film, it becomes something kind of else, and without giving too much away for the listener, and we did tweet out the link to the film, so I'm hoping that a lot of the listeners watch. It's a whodunit, and in the end it turns out that everyone did it.
Yeah, everyone's as bad as each other.
I mean, even to the point where I genuinely thought Tom Conway was also going to be one of the villains at one point. With about 10 minutes to go, I was thinking, is that where this is going? But no, it turns out he is the good guy, in inverted commas, but everyone else isn't really. Kev, what did you think?
Honestly, there was so many different plots going on. It's almost like you're having to spin plates mentally just to try and keep up with what's going on, because you've got subplots like Michael Ripper's Eddie, who's supplying feathers to a hat maker for no reason whatsoever. So you've got this other subplot going on that makes no sense and has nothing to do with the plot. And Eddie's character himself seems to spend most of the time just offering up information about his employment history, which is quite bizarre.
Ripper seems to be thoroughly enjoying himself as a sort of Cockney wide
He's
boy.
brilliant.
Yeah.
For the entire film, and it's just like he chews the scenery somewhat in the few scenes that he's in.
Blimey, yeah.
Yeah, oh god blimey governor, yeah. And he really does seem to be having so much fun. And everyone else around him is having to deal with this nonsensical plot, but he's just a bird provider.
Yeah.
I really, to be honest, I really like that side plot. It was one of my favourite red herrings we've seen so far. It's when they open up, because to the listener who maybe hasn't caught the film, it's implied that Eddie, this character Eddie, is doing something really unscrupulous. He may be the jewel thief, he may be the murderer, but it turns out he's supplying basically British wild birds to this hat maker, so she can put the feathers in the hats. And of course, under British sort of game laws, it's illegal. But it's like, as crimes rank, it's like right down there in terms of ones that no one really cares about.
Considering we're also dealing with murder and jewel thievery, that it's quite low down.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if you're a puffin, you'd be pretty concerned.
Do you get many puffin hats? I'm asking for a friend.
Looking at those hats, probably yes.
Which bird do you think would make the most unlikely hat? I'm struggling to go beyond penguin.
The chaffinch.
Imagine a massive penguin hat. You know, like an emperor penguin, like it's a top hat.
Like a busby.
What are those big birds that everyone keeps posting on Twitter every now and again? They're absolutely massive with the huge bills. They look
pelican.
They look like they've been made in some horror movie. I'll have to find them and show you them after. The people on Twitter will know what I'm talking about.
They're horror birds.
Okay.
Yeah, the horror bird. Yeah,
terror bird.
That's the different. That's the different name for a final girl, isn't it? A horror bird.
Yes, the hat making aside is one of my favourite ones so far.
Yeah, I just think a fundamental issue with this is it has several, but the first off for me is the staggering amount of character names that are hoyed at you throughout its runtime that don't appear on screen or are just off screen. So it's sort of like, is that them? Is that the one they're talking about? You know, at first, we're watching a fashion show with about 20 girls in it, and it's like, oh, well, you're about to meet Louise, you're about to meet Gina, and it's like, am I? Have I met them? It was just sort of like the amount of names, and then it comes to the climax, and I won't spoil the quote-unquote twist, and they're going...
Any more than I already have,
fair enough.
unfortunately.
Well, no, but they're going, right, you did this to this person did this to you, that person did that to this person. I'm going, who the hell am I? Who are these people?
Yeah.
Who am I rooting for? Who died? I don't know anymore. It's so hard to keep up.
Well, I mean, I'll add to that as well. Is that there's a character called Madame Fernandez who is the hat maker.
Hat maker.
And then there's Miss Pascal who's in charge of the whole operation. On my first watch, I thought they were the same person.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
But then you also had the sort of the aristocratic woman, Lady something, and
Moment.
Yeah, and
Lady
then
to be killed.
And then obviously,
Marchant, sorry, Lady
Marchant. Thank you. Yeah,
Lady
and
murdered.
It was like, but this is it. She gets shot, 20 minutes into the film, and it's like, why is she getting shot? Why do I care? She's getting shot, and then it's like, oh no, she committed suicide. It's like, well, no, she didn't. I saw her got shot.
Yeah, she got shot by Roger Delgado, no less, who is the first face in this film. And anybody that's a Doctor Who fan will know him quite well because he becomes quite a legend. And this is one of his earliest roles.
Yeah, that opening scene, Kev, I think is pretty good.
Brilliant.
Well. I mean,
Yeah, it was great stuff.
Yeah.
Proper clobber.
I mean, there's a couple of burglars that are looking to rob the jewels of this place, and they encounter the night watchman, and there's some
That night watchman's
punching.
ace. He's not taking any prisoners, is he? He's, come on, I'll have you both. Even if it means I'll break the banister in the meantime.
We should mention now, shouldn't we? It is literally about a private detective trying to figure out who's committed this robbery and then a murder, isn't it? I mean, that's the basic story. So I'm going to say something that goes against the grain of what we normally say, and that is, it's become a bit of a cliche for us now, which is to say that a second watch really helps this.
No,
I actually think. I actually think a second watch actually hurts this film because I gave it a higher rating on my first watch than I did on my second.
I can't I can't passionately disagree or agree. I don't think my rating changed across the viewings.
Okay.
But it certainly didn't improve on a second viewing. I don't think, judging from what we've already talked about and what I know we've discussed a little bit before we started recording, I don't think I'm going to rate this quite as low as you are. Without, this is not a pod splitter, by the way. You know, it's
this is no River Patrol.
We're going to be in the same ballpark.
It's no Whispering Smith.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not that anyway. Almost. He reminds me a bit of him. Actually, but for different reasons.
Oh no, Whispering Smith was actually likable.
I was going to say, but he irritated me in the same
did,
way. Anyway,
yeah.
it doesn't matter. That's gone, Ben. Forget it, Ben.
Let it go.
Let it go.
Let it go. Can we go back to the title?
Yes.
Right? 'Cause,
Yeah.
you know, obviously I was being whimsical in our opening exchange. But other than the fact that it is a threatening-sounding colour,
Yeah.
there is no reason whatsoever that this film is called Blood Orange.
I've got it in my notes because I said it makes no sense that they'd call a film Blood Orange when it's a black and white film, and it really didn't matter. You could have changed the... it's all about a dress that's blood orange. Mm-hmm. Why didn't they just call it after the ruby that's actually the main driving force? And then you would have got rid of all the dressmaker subplot. You'd have made it a lot clearer what was going on, because then you'd know what Lady Marchant was on about, and you'd be able to focus a bit more on that. But no, they just kind of muddied the waters so much, with all full of red herrings left, right, and centre. Blood orange herrings.
As you said, Kev, you know, it's named because that's the colour of the dress that the two murder victims die in. But that has absolutely no bearing on anything. It is not significant.
Nope.
You know, the fact that it's that colour doesn't mean anything. No. You know, the dresses aren't actually important at all to the plot. They don't have any. It doesn't come back to be part of. You know, or they, you know, say if like go back to River Patrol, or they were wearing contraband dresses or something. It's nothing to do with that. So I just think it's despite as I said, it's quite a threatening colour, but or threatening fruit. But
it's a grabbing title though. You know, it does kind of it's kind of cool. I kind of like the title Blood Orange. It sounds kind of cool.
It's no 3 Stops to Murder though, is it?
No, that's weird. Is someone killing on a bus? What's
that's
going
what
on?
I thought. Is this the bus trip to hell?
But then also, you know, we have to point out is that it gives it license to do the most movie name drops in film history, more than Face Off ever did.
Yes, it's a bit of a clang every time they say the word.
So often, so many. I didn't count, but it's got to be at least a dozen.
Don't try that drinking game. That's all I can say.
If we're talking sort of interestingly nonsensical parts of the plot, there is a part of this where Mr. Mercedes, who is you think the big villain, turns out he's not quite as big as we think he might be. There's one point where, and I know this is his favourite scene of Kev, so I'll go straight over to him after I've described it, where he escapes capture by pretending that a box that has a bottle of champagne in it, a bottle of perfume in it, is in fact a parcel bomb. And if he pulls the string, then the bomb will explode.
Tell me, didn't you find it very heavy for a bottle of perfume?
Well, I don't know what you're talking about, but you have plenty of time at the station
If
to explain.
Lady Marchant had got this parcel and pulled the strings, she would have been blown to smithereens.
Now look here,
Shall I
Mercedes.
try? I'll pull, shall I? Oh, let's try. After all, how does it go? Life is nothing much to lose, only young men think it is. And we are not as young as we were, are we? Then, if nobody wants me to experiment, I must ask you to unlock the window and put the key on the desk here.
Better do as he says. You'll never get away with this, Mercedes.
One trick out of you and it's curtains for all of us.
Other than when Danny Glover is sat on the toilet in Lethal Weapon 2, I can't think of a more unlikely scenario for a bomb. But Kev, your thoughts?
Stroke of genius. The fact that this man is able to bluff his way out of a room full of coppers with a little box that would house a bomb that could probably tear your pocket if it did go off.
It's the equivalent of putting your finger in your pocket and telling everyone you've got a gun.
Yes.
I was just going to say
It
that.
is, yeah.
Or having a banana in there. as scenes go, apart from the ridiculous nature of the suspension of disbelief, I really enjoyed that scene because it's so silly. But it's also is the fact that it gives our new favourite, Mr. Pullman, a chance to let. Well, yeah, but also to just to be let off the leash a little bit. But I again, something we've talked about off pod, but just because it's so fresh in the head, because we did it so recently, is that Eric Pullman has to be the inspiration for Carswell, the villain from Night of the Demon, or Curse of the Demon, whichever you wish. He's a dead ringer for him. The voice is the same, and it's just he's got the same beard. Same no hairstyle, and it's just, and he. I mean, apart from the wonderful and delightful Naomi Chance, he was the best thing in this.
Every now and again, he'd come up with some real pearlers, like some people choose the oddest places for suicide whilst laughing his head off.
That was such a weird scene.
It is. It
was really weird.
But he's great at doing this. You know, he manages to pull it off, and I feel really annoyed when he's done away with in such a casual manner.
It was a bit wishy-washy, wasn't it?
Yeah, because you feel like this could be the real driving force behind the whole film, and he's then stabbed by a pair of scissors in a car park, and it's like in the middle of the day.
But what kind of car park is that? It's a pit in the ground. It's in the middle of central London, as you say, Kim, with like millions of people around. It's like...
Yeah, I don't like to, like we always do, like sort of, when there's a film that isn't really up to par and, always focus on the negatives. There are some positives in this as well. As we said, the opening is great. I loved that first couple of minutes. I was sort of like, ooh, this is not what I was expecting. This is a violent little crime drama we're going to get. Sadly, that didn't go anywhere. But I know I'm a broken record, but Naomi Chance is brilliant. She is so good.
She really lets it rip in this one.
Yes.
She's fantastic in this.
Yeah, this is a bit more like her character in Gambler and the Lady. This is a little bit more of that sort of hard-edged woman to it, and it was nice to see her do that again. And even as you say, she took it further in this one, and that was great to see. I thought she was great.
There's a scene towards the end of this film where she has a coming together with another character where some home truths are spoken. Ooh. And she really goes off on the leash to the point of basically telling this other person to go kill themselves.
Yep.
And it's quite shocking. It's really well done. She's excellent in that scene.
I like her. When she's inquiring whether this person has committed suicide, and has the old bag killed herself yet?
I like the fact that in the last time we saw her, she actually managed to get her fisticuffs out and start lashing out a bit. And in this, she unloads a full clip into somebody, which I was like, what?
Just empties the entire revolver.
Yes.
She really made sure that person was dead.
I thought she was just going to be stood there for the next half an hour going click, 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 click. There's nothing left.
It was going to be like Bill Duke in Predator, wasn't it? Just holding on to the minigun, even though it's empty. Until he just lets his finger go. It was going to be like that. But yeah, I mean, she shone in this. Tom Conway is Tom Conway. It's really sad. I'll tell you someone who I did like, though, was... Richard Wattis, who plays Mac, the police chief.
Worst piece of casting ever?
Yeah, because he should be playing a headmaster in a school.
Yeah, and or an accountant.
Sorry?
Or an accountant. Yeah.
In The Untouchables.
Or an accountant. Yeah, in The Untouchables. Yeah, because it was so badly cast. But he actually... what he had to do, he did really well, and he did it with a real kind of glint in his eye as well. I think he knew. I think he knew this wasn't for him, and he just thought, you know what, I'm up against Tom Conway, so I'm just going to play it the best I can, and he did it really well.
He's not really got a lot of competition either, because Tom Conway is basically sleepwalking his way through it. And honestly, every time we see them in the same scene, Wattis is just running circles around him.
or as you said earlier, not sleepwalking, just sleeping.
I have to say, I didn't buy Captain Colin as the sort of the centre of all the ladies' attention. He didn't exactly ooze charisma.
No. I liked the way that they downplayed it, though, because she says, but then he's the only bloke here. So
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? The models are going, oh, all the women here are into him. And yeah, but he's the only one here.
yeah.
Before we go to our kind of summary and roundup, you reminded me with something that you said a while ago about a couple of things that Mercedes said that were quite amusing. One of which I got with I really enjoyed how did you find her? Dead. which was a line that had me chuckling, and I think it was meant to as well. But my favourite line, and I apologise in advance for the puerile nature of this, was when
I know what's coming.
You probably do. Well, we'll see if you do. But yeah, it's a line that's uttered by Tom Conway, is that yesterday I was fingered by a man who works for you. Anyway,
so, no, hang on. We can't go any further without them mentioning the intercom.
Intercom?
Intercom?
Com?
You invented that call on the intercom.
Yes, it was obviously a newfangled device in 1953, the old intercom.
Intercom?
Either or we just had no idea what one was, and therefore the intonation every time he said it was just guesswork on his part.
It's like he's hyphenized the word.
Yeah.
Maybe the script.
Yeah, it's such a weird reading of just what should be quite a simple line. But I mean, you can forgive the woman he's sending it to because she's French. She might not know, but he's an American. He should know what an intercom is.
And the problem is it's quite pivotal to the plot, so he has to say it several times as well.
Every time you end up actually waiting for him to say it again towards the end. It's like, come on, Tom, please say it again. Please say intercom.
At least Naomi Chance says it properly, so I was fine with it. That's absolutely fine by me. But yeah, that was a bizarre reading. There are some quite good lines in this, but they're very few and far between, sadly.
So, Smokey, final thoughts and give me a rating.
I've got a very simple way of not describing, but sort of summing up this film. Is that
is it a 4-letter word?
No, it's not. No, it's if you want to see this film done better, go back and watch Death in High Heels.
Yeah,
because it's not dissimilar in themes. Okay, this is has more of the robbery side, but Death in High Heels is kind of set in the same industry, fashion and whatnot. There's a murder. There's a detective snooping around trying to find things out. Don Stannard has so much more personality than Tom Conway does, and it's just it gets more. You get more from Death in High Heels in a shorter runtime. As I said, the first time viewing, I enjoyed it, but I don't know. I think maybe it was the circumstances or my mood that I was watching it in. But then I rewatched it again today, and its flaws were magnified a hell of a lot more. It's slow. It's unnecessarily confusing. Whereas, like Ben, you said, there's a decent, simple murder plot to be had here, and they convolute it with so many extra characters, so many names of people that don't mean anything, and a quote unquote star who looks bored out of his mind the entire time. But there are some good points, as we've said. We've been through those. So it's pushing between a 4 and a 5 for me. I'm going to give it a 5 for now, but it might drop when I'm feeling in a worse mood. might drop to a 4. This is disappointing from Hammer, unfortunately.
Kev, should we put our armour or our tin helmets on?
Yeah, you might as well. Right. You know the old saying, familiarity breeds contempt? Well, I've watched this 4 times, lads. So,
oh my word.
This is awful, to say the least. Apart from the odd highlight, I'm afraid this is just deadly dull. It starts off really promising with that action sequence at the beginning, but it quickly descends into the usual people standing around saying ridiculously unconvincing lines to each other. And the whole film just ends up being a mess of a senseless waste. There are a couple of highlights that we've not mentioned. a copper gets shot in the arm, and the inspector says, "How did you feel?" And he goes, "Oh, not too bad, Inspector." It's like, yeah, I'll walk it off.
But it's also the fact about that scene is though, Kev, is that they say, "Oh, don't worry, we'll take you back to the station in a minute." And it's like, no, take him to hospital.
No,
We've got a first aid kit at the station.
We'll get that bullet sorted.
We've got a magic sponge. And of course, Colin Simpson's proposal subplot that suddenly comes from nowhere, and we're like, "What? Why?"
Yeah, that is weird.
It's bizarre. It is just all over the place. I can see why they chose to release it in the States a year later. It didn't get released in the States until October the 25th, 1954, which is ridiculous. You know, God knows why they were just holding back. Maybe they're just thinking, we'll wait until we've got a free slot. We're not really going to bother pushing this.
It's got to be, you've got to find something to pair it with, haven't you? Another sort of crime drama, but also something that might need a push from a really crap B movie. And that's what this is.
Yes, exactly, yeah. We'll get somebody that's actually got a name on the marquee, and hopefully push Shane.
Oh, wow. Nice. Nice pull.
What would you give it out of 10 then?
Oh God, 2. I'm going no further than 2. This is an awful mess. And like Smokey says, the more you watch it, the worse it gets.
Right, okay, well, I'll try and bring some daylight or levity back into this summary. I certainly didn't hate it as much as Kevin did, and I'm not a million miles away from Smokey, though. Yeah, it was very forgettable. And, you know, I didn't hate it. I wouldn't even go as far as to say I didn't, like, sort of not enjoy it, but I couldn't say I enjoyed it either. It was in that sort of grey area between where you've just watched it and thought, all right, fair enough. The pacing was an issue for me. I think, you summed it up right there when you said it starts off fast, decent. You think, whoa, and then it just grinds to a halt. The scene that we mentioned earlier where Mercedes escapes by pretending his bottle of perfume in a parcel is a bomb. He basically climbs out the window. And I timed it the second time. In between him telling them he's going to climb out the window and then just climbing out the window takes over a minute of him just going to the window and getting out the window. Contrast that with the final scene of the film, the one where Naomi Chance unloads an entire gun of bullets into someone. So this is the pivotal scene. This is where it is finally revealed that what certain characters have been up to and what the whole meaning of this plot is. This entire scene lasts less than 4 minutes. It lasts 3 minutes and 53 seconds, and it is the most important scene in the film. And as I say, I mean, we've commented on this before about films, Hammer films of this era, but films more generally of this era is this insistence on packing what should be 10 minutes of action into about 3 minutes at the end. And this was a real culprit for that. Overall, I thought some of the performances were decent. I agree that Naomi Chance was great. I loved, Eric Pullman. I enjoyed some of the, I enjoyed Michael Ripper.
Oh yes.
So there were things to enjoy, but overall, it's for me to bang average right down the middle. It's a 5. I'm going to give it a 5.
Fair enough. Can I just add a scene that I completely forgot about? My favourite scene of the entire film is what I have dubbed the most unnecessary fight in cinematic history, which is when Tom Conway is escaping from the mansion, and there's a policeman hiding from him, and the policeman grabs him, and Tom Conway thumps him, and they have a bit of a wrestle, and then they just stop. It's like
with an apology. It's the most British fight ever. Oh, I'm sorry, officer. Didn't realise you were a policeman.
If they had cut that and they'd just sort of gone, Tom Conway just appears at the front door with the other policeman, it wouldn't have made a shade of difference to this film at all.
None at all.
The fight lasted about 8 seconds. It's hilarious at what they do because they throw each other over each other's shoulders, which is wonderful.
They could have saved a lot of money there just by not having the stuntmen turn up that day. Because they're obviously stunt doubles. It's a Star Trek kind of fight, where that's not Kirk.
It was...
Well, I will have to stop it there, gentlemen, because I have a sudden urge to go and buy a Macintosh.
So there you have it. Somewhat of an underwhelming affair. You'll have to get in touch and let us know if you agree. Oh, and before any of you smartasses get your thumbs a-tweeting, the bird I was thinking of was, of course, the shoebill stork. Look it up if you haven't seen it. Truly the stuff of nightmares. Well, my friends, our time here is almost at an end for this episode, and for this year. We've had a little team talk, and we've come to the decision that knocking out an episode every fortnight for the whole year has been bloody good of us, so we're taking a little break. The episode on Hammer's next film, 36 Hours, will be with you in the new year. But, never fear, we're not going to leave you starved of entertainment. Now, next up is our Christmas special extravaganza. If you heard last year's, you know what to expect. Awards, outtakes, quizzes, and a Kev so drunk that his outro had to be heavily edited so that it would make sense. Oh, and also, whisper it ever so slightly, but a certain person, whose name begins with A, just might be joining us too. So, until then, should you wish to get in touch, find us on Twitter and Instagram at HouseHammerPod, or email us at scream@houseofhammerpodcast.com. Don't forget to check out the new merch, by the way. Those bath mats won't sell themselves, you know. And also, we have a brand spanking new Facebook page for you to join in with too. The links for both of those will be in the show notes. So until next time, from me, Smokey.
From me, Ben Tillison.
And from me, Kev Moore.
We wish you all a wonderful Christmas and a beltingly hammered New Year, until we welcome you back once again through the doors of the House of Hammer.